what some people from outside would call a settlement. Most of us would look at this and tour it and call it a community, a thriving community, where people are being educated, being encouraged, enjoying life, raising families.
Talk show host and former Governor Mike Huckabee toured Judea and Samaria Tuesday as part of the 15th visit to Israel. Huckabee began his tour in Ariel, where he was told of the boycotts announced by artists and academics against the city in Samaria.
Left-wing artists signed a letter saying that they are not going to perform here because it's an occupied area.
36 out of 16,000 artists in Israel, so 36,
Yeah.
that's the gist of it.
I'm sure you can get by without them. People have boycotted me, always considered a badge of honor. I'm sure that this university and this community will thrive. I'm not sure that the people who do the boycotting will.
We are very, very grateful to Governor Huckabee that he took the time not just to see, as others do, our communities from the air, from helicopters, but down in the ground, to see our faces, to hear our voices, to hear our wishes. And I think that Governor Huckabee, as always, is very sympathetic to our endeavor.
Yesterday, Huckabee and the actor John Voight, who has joined him for this tour, met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Good to see you. How
You
are you?
remember John Voight, I know?
Hello.
Leland Litter from Fox?
John, how are you? It's good to see you. How are you? Just great.
It's very kind of you to see us today. I know you've got a busy day.
My first name goes back another 1,000 years to Benjamin, the son of Jacob, and he was on these hills too. So we have some connection to this land.
Tuesday morning, we met Huckabee in Jerusalem and heard his opinion on the main issues that are on the agenda.
To tell Jewish people, you cannot live in this neighborhood. You are not allowed to raise your children here. What's different? What's different in calling it anything other than a form of racism and apartheid?
Regarding the two-state solution, the governor supports establishing a Palestinian state, just not here.
So you're suggesting that there's no place for a Palestinian state?
No, I think that there should be, but it doesn't have to necessarily be on the tiny little postage stamp piece of property that is Israel. I'm not against a Palestinian state. I am against the idea that, and it's not so much against, I'm just a realist in saying I don't see how it works that you're going to put two people on top of each other, two governments, not just people.
We asked Huckabee about the tensions between Jerusalem and Washington since President Obama came into office.
I've been troubled by some of the seemingly changed positions. The insistence, for example, that the Israelis stop building bedrooms for their children, when we were putting more pressure on Israelis building bedrooms than we were about Iranians building bombs. That makes no sense to me. A bedroom never blew anybody up. Bombs do.
Governor Huckabee joins the recent calls to act in benefit of Jonathan Pollard, who has spent more than 25 years in U.S. prison for spying for Israel.
He pled guilty. He served an extraordinary length of time for the crime that he was convicted of, to which he pled guilty. And it would seem to now be, I think, a matter of goodwill and a good faith gesture for the President to give clemency and release him.
Regarding the situation in Egypt, the governor says that America should be very careful relating and responding to the events. Mubarak's contribution to peace and stability in the area should not be forgotten.
The fact that Egypt was able to maintain the peace accord with Israel for all these many 30 years has been, I think, remarkable in itself.
In wake of the recent U.S. statements, which some interpreted as supporting the protests against Mubarak, Huckabee notes that he had expected the U.S. to intervene in another rebellion, the one crushed in Iran.
So I don't understand why there seemed to be, in the uprising in Iran, no willingness to support what was clearly a rejection of the authoritarian, totalitarian, dictatorial, anti-Israeli, anti-American government there. And seemingly utter silence when it comes to, or rather almost an indication of support to overthrow a government that really has been very friendly toward America.
Huckabee emphasizes that the world should understand the Iranian threat and act accordingly.
Nuclear device in the hands of the Iranians is an absolute threat, not to Israel, singularly. It's a threat to every nation that isn't Iran. I bet if we could get the Saudis to speak out publicly, they'd be the first to tell you, not that they're going to, but they're as terrified of a nuclear-armed Iran as Israel would be. So would be the Jordanians, the Emirates, Qatar. Who isn't afraid? Except maybe their partners in crime and the infiltrated areas where they have reached their tentacles. But for the United States, this is very important because Iran's made it very clear that Israel is, to them, I think, a nuisance, but they see America as the great Satan. And so any naivete on our part thinking that they would stop at Israel is utter nonsense.